former Dallas mayor and current Texas senatorial candidate Tom Leppert. This is going to be a mixture of questions, both that would be appropriate for any of the candidates in the race, some very specific to you. Then the format's going to be sort of some softball questions at the beginning, some very hardball questions in the middle, and then a few more softball questions as a reward for getting to the interview.
I'd be happy to answer those questions.
Okay, all right. If elected senator, what do you think the first top 3 priorities Congress should help tackle in 2013?
It's got to be the economy. I wish there was a fancy way to go 1, 2, and 3, but the reality of 1, 2, and 3 is the economy. When I go across the state, everybody understands the challenges we have on the economy, both from a fiscal standpoint, but also just trying to build a strong, vibrant economy. I think the reality everybody understands today is we're close to bankruptcy. We mentioned the same way that countries like Greece and Spain are mentioned. But I think people are really concerned about their jobs too. The neighbors' jobs, that was their jobs. So I think it's really the economy. Because the other thing I think people have to understand is the economy drives so much else. For instance, some questions that you might get in terms of foreign relations international. We're at the head of the table because we've got a strong economy. We lose that strong economy, then we lose the position to influence those sorts of elements on an international basis.
Okay. How do you think your experience as mayor of Dallas has prepared you to be a U.S. senator?
Well, I think there's 2 pieces. I think as mayor of Dallas, we accomplished some good things. I think some of those were intangible in terms of public safety, issues that have been out there 20 years that never got done, we actually got them done. But I think it's always also the intangible. I mean, Dallas was viewed as a dysfunctional government. When we came in, the reality is when we left, people had a lot of confidence in the government. We put a good tone in it, got things done, as I said. And I think that almost changed kind of the intangible aspects of that. But I'll also tell you that with the successes that we had there, actually getting things done, in a job that's probably the most accountable elected position. Anyway, being mayor, my accountability usually came at the grocery store line.
Right.
But I'll also tell you what I think I'm bringing to this job is 25 years of running businesses. And running businesses in a lot of different industries. Construction, banking, leasing, home building, and on. It's that really perspective. I think what people want today is someone that's not a politician, someone who hasn't been elected for 10 years or is trying to find, going from government to government, trying to find a career in elected office. And they also want someone that's got some sense of business. People understand that what we want today is politicians and people who had attorneys that they've never created a job and never signed themselves for a paycheck. And I think people are concerned enough about the economy today that that's what they want. That's the background that I bring.
Okay. Before your endorsement of Rick Perry in the gubernatorial race on October 13, 2010, which, if any, other public endorsements of Republican officials had you made, either before or during your term as mayor of Dallas?
That was the first major.
Okay. Is it true in the past that in addition to Republicans, you've also donated to the electoral campaigns of Democrats Ron Kirk, Daniel Inouye, Daniel Akaki, and I'm probably mispronouncing this, Mulifa Hananaman?
One of those was a nonpartisan position. Yes, but keep in mind, the vast majority of the money that I put into elections has always been with Republicans. I've been a strong supporter of Republicans, and I've always done that. So I think you need to look at it in the context of the overall. And clearly, the place where I've raised money is on the Republican side. That's where I put my personal resources.
Okay. Your campaign has set up a website, pastorsforleppert.com.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a social or an evangelical conservative?
I consider myself a social conservative. I think if you look at the supporters that have gotten involved in that Pastors for Tom Leppert, it's some of the most notable conservative pastors in our community in the state of Texas. People like David Dykes and people like Robert Jeffries. And so as much as I focus on the economic issues, I think it's important that people like that who clearly are conservatives, who have a strong faith background, look at me and say, that's an individual who has a strong faith background. It's the type of person we need in Washington. So I feel good about that.
Okay. What was your role in the Trinity River Toll Road project, and did you in fact push for building the road in the floodplain?
Yeah, and again, we need to get the answers out on that. What we're trying to do is push the project forward. Clearly that's one entity. And it's a good example of a lot of other things too. Clearly, there's transportation issues that have to be dealt with. That was one of the options that's on it. So while it gets pictured as, quote, the toll road, what it needs to be viewed is viewed much wider. It needs to be viewed much wider in terms of how do we get that project done and accomplished. And secondly, in a community like Dallas, and I'd also apply on a national basis, what are the issues that we have to deal with today so that we're going to have, in that case, a strong community, but a strong nation going forward too. And clearly walking away from transportation issues in a community that's growing as much as the Dallas metropolitan area or any part of Texas wasn't the right thing to do. So although sometimes it gets pictured as, quote, it was the toll road, the reality is it's much wider. It was much wider in terms of getting the project done and dealing with transportation issues, where, to be truthful with you, there aren't any other good options to be able to get done with those. And keep in mind that downtown area of Dallas is the largest commercial hub for all of North Texas. So if all of a sudden we don't have the transportation, we end up with traffic jams, parking lots, etc., into the future, then it hurts all of North Texas.
Okay. Let's see. Obviously, being mayor of Dallas is an inherently less partisan job than being a Texas senator. However, several conservatives have alleged that you were entirely too friendly with several left-wing interest groups during and after your mayoral campaign, including ACORN, the SEIU, and the Dallas gay and lesbian community. How do you respond to those criticisms?
I deal with facts. Let's put some of those out. We'll take the union as an example and go through all of them in detail if you want to. Union is an example. I told the union when I was running, as I did a number of other organizations, that they ought to support me because I would be doing the best job as mayor. And indeed, I believe that's exactly what it turned out. Now, when they came to me and said, gosh, we want to increase benefits, we want to increase wages, my answer was very clear. No. One, wasn't justified, and two, we couldn't afford it. Now, as a result, they're opposed to me now, which is some of the information that's come out. But I did exactly what you want to do. I represented the taxpayers, I represented the citizenry, and we made exactly the tough choices that unfortunately usually don't see being made in Washington.
And the ACORN?
ACORN's a pretty simple one. That was one, much like we have in the Senate race. There were dozens and dozens of mayoral forums. They supported one of those mayoral forums or sponsored, and all the candidates went and did their 2 minutes and then answered questions. So it's pretty simple and pretty straightforward.
Okay. What roles did Lynn Flint Shaw and Willis Johnson play in your first campaign and then your administration as far as steering city business to minority contractors?
Well, they were both involved in the campaign, and they were supporters in terms of pushing business out. That wasn't even a question in that. That wasn't even part of the issue. They were supporters of mine. I appreciate that support. I never got involved in the contracts.
Okay. But you did appoint Ms. Shaw to the DART board, correct?
Not correct.
Okay.
She was already on the DART board. I sponsored her. She moved up, but she was already on the DART board.
She was already on the DART board. Okay. All right.